Hello and welcome to another Indie Sunday. This week we're going to be playing Kyle is Famous, which is, as far as I'm aware, a text-based game. That's pretty much the extent of what I know. It's about a year old, I think. I think it's an add-on, like a DLC sort of type. I don't know, though it might be a separate game. But let's just get into it and you'll see what it's about, and I'll see as well. Kyle wakes up. He's famous. Alright, that's a start. Let me see more. Kyle is host of the most popular talk show in recent memory, Stay Up Late with Kyle. Stay Up Late with Kyle has grown in popularity quickly in the last year, and the public has noticed. Inside has called Kyle a most excellent dumpy white man, whatever that means. Top Tech noted that Kyle is inspiring youth to explore STEM fields. Most other talk shows are dedicated to discussing Kyle and his personal details. Most online videos are best of clips taken from Kyle's latest broadcast. The eye of the world is upon Kyle. Tonight is Kyle's most important guest interview yet. Stay Up Late with Kyle will be featuring Rachel May. She is a kind and lovely philanthropist. She is dear to the hearts of many. This interview requires preparation. Kyle cracked his eyes open, knowing today is his last chance to prepare for the interview. Kyle has 30 hours left. He must choose his actions wisely. We'll see about that. Start preparing. Kyle's first decision of the morning was made wisely. We're withering away. You know what? I kind of want to make two playthroughs. The first one where I try to make good decisions. And then in the second one we'll try to just, mess Kyle's day up as good as we can, or as bad as we can, depending on how you look at it. But we'll do the sensible thing right now. We're exiting the bad. This is apparently our current location. This is the time we have until the interview. Kyle exited his bed and took a quick glance around his bedroom. Open the closet. Kyle opened the closet. It was dark and he could only really see his hanging shirts. Choose an outfit. Kyle decided to take some time to choose the perfect outfit, knowing how important appearance is. A slick suit. Kyle miraculously crammed his dumpy body into the suit. The chest pockets were filled with random knickknacks. Alright. Kyle returned to the center of the bedroom. What could we scavenge? Kyle quickly crouched down on the floor, realizing his immediate need for bugs. Nothing in particular. Oh, gossip, maybe. Kyle firmly pressed his ear into the carpet, hoping to hear some stray words from the neighbors below. I heard Rachel May is going on a trip out of the country soon. Oh, girlfriend, tell me more. Well, what I will tell you is that every night I don a mask that looks like a bug and fight Miss Stewart. There was a stunned silence. Then a door opened and someone exited the neighbor's apartment. That's quite enough. Sit at the desk. Kyle made his way over to his desk and sat down. Write some notes for the interview. Is your mother a mother? Are you a mother? Diet tips. What's your funniest story? What's your guilty pleasure? Kyle ripped his page of notes out of the notebook and got up from the desk. Apparently we can only go back to the desk. Check in the desk drawer. What's in there? Kyle opened up the side drawer on his desk and grabbed one of the items stored there. A small key. Okay. Let's go back to the room and out to the hallway. Kyle walked into the small hallway that connects the rooms of his apartment together. Check the locked door. Kyle walked over to the strange door in the hallway, but found quickly that the door was locked from the inside. Where's the doorway forward? How did Kyle spend 24 hours walking through the hallway and checking his bedroom? Move to the kitchen, sure. Open the fridge. Open the fridge, intending to find something to eat. Eat the fridge. Prepare breakfast. Kyle constructed a breakfast of poached eggs and toast along with a small fruit cup and grilled sausage. Eat. Kyle ate his breakfast slowly and thoughtfully, enjoying every bite. He felt refreshed. Alright, our time is up. Kyle hurried to the set. Sitting across from his host's chair was a glamorous woman with an air of genuinity. As Kyle approached her, Rachel looked up and smiled. "Good evening, Kyle," she said, looking him in the eyes. "I've been looking forward to being here." Kyle responded. "And I as well, Rachel," answered Kyle, extending his hand in greeting. "You're a most welcome guest." After another mild exchange of pleasantries, Kyle and Rachel were prompted to take their places for the broadcast. A moment after seating, the studio lights brightened and the cameras clicked on. "Good evening, everyone," said Kyle, looking at the camera. "Welcome back to Stay Up Late with Kyle. Tonight I have the pleasure of interviewing the lovely Rachel May, who needs no more introduction." Kyle motioned to Rachel, who smiled and waved at the camera. "Hello, Kyle," she said. "I'm glad to be here." "Well, I'm sure we'll have a lot to discuss, so we might as well dive right in," said Kyle. "I'm very ready," said Rachel with a winning smile. Kyle produced a note he had taken earlier. "Rachel, I and many others would love to know, are you a mother?" Kyle looked up from his notes. "Well, being a single woman with a career," she answered, "that's not something that has crossed my mind." Rachel smiled genuinely at Kyle. Very reasonable indeed," said Kyle. He referenced his paper of questions. Kyle asked another question. "You've been involved in a lot of different things," said Kyle, "but what's your funniest story?" "Well, that's a great question, Kyle," said Rachel. "I think the story I always remember is the first time I tried to make dinner for my family. In the soup I made, I swapped out the water with milk and tipped the whole jar of salt in the pot. While my family was sick from trying to eat it, I swiped their things and locked myself in my room." Rachel laughed elegantly, like a psychopath. Kyle decided to move on. "Rachel, you managed to keep such a thin and healthy figure," said Kyle. "What is your best diet tip?" "Well, a good diet starts with a plan," answered Rachel, "and don't break it. Cheat days can turn into a habit." "But," she continued, "that doesn't mean a midnight snack here and there isn't allowed." She smiled. Kyle looked at his flabby self, decided to not comment, and moved on. "We all have one. What's your guilty pleasure?" "Oh, well, that's an easy answer," said Rachel. "Dipping pickles in chocolate sauce." "That's not a guilty pleasure. A guilty pleasure is not a guilty pleasure if you don't feel guilty about it." "It might sound strange, but it's tangy and sweet at the same time. I eat it far too often." Rachel smiled sweetly. After reading his final question, Kyle looked up from his paper. "Well, Rachel," he said, "I think that's all I was planning on asking you." "If that's the case, Kyle, may I ask you something in return?" asked Rachel, smiling one more time. "Do you prepare for your interviews in advance? Because you seem very together." Before Kyle could answer, the cameras shut down. The broadcast was over. Kyle returned home knowing the interview had gone well. But as he lay in bed and drifted to sleep, he felt that perhaps something was still missing. Kyle prepared very well. "Alright, now then, let's mess up. Let's wither away in bed." Kyle decided to stay put and wither away. Kyle withered successfully and died. Shucks, Kyle is now a ghost. This does not relieve him of his responsibilities. Okay, we'll get out of bed anyway. Kyle exited his bed and took a quick glance around his bedroom. Kyle quickly crouched down on the floor, realizing his immediate need for resources. Kyle began to comb through the damp piles of filth and mold on his floor in search of helpful items. After finding and eating a few bits of crumbs and old cheese, Kyle found something much more important. Indeed, it was the corpse of Harry, a friend that had gone missing years ago while at Kyle's house. Kyle was glad to see him again, but was unsure of whether to interrupt such an important day with Harry business. Kyle hoisted Harry onto his shoulder and took him outside. Kyle began dragging Harry's body down the street, drawing many, many stairs. Kyle knew exactly where he needed to take Harry's corpse on a lovely play date, just the two of them. Kyle and Harry started at the arcade. Kyle used Harry's arms to operate the joysticks and push buttons. After 5 or 6 different games, the two friends had enough tickets for a single candy bar. They took their prize to the local park for eating. Kyle tried to feed some of the chocolate bar to Harry, but Harry seemed to not have an appetite. After eating, Kyle noticed a nearby playground. He dragged Harry over. Kyle tried to figure out a way to swing Harry on the swing set, but lacking the ability to grip, Harry kept falling out. Instead, Kyle started to lug Harry to the top of the slide and shove him down time and again. I'm still wondering how all of this works considering Kyle is a ghost, but sure. Finally, Kyle took Harry to the movies to see as many popular films as their pocket change allowed. Kyle quickly found that he had no pocket change, so he searched through Harry's corpse until he found his wallet. Kyle bought 2 tickets to Love Romance. After getting inside, Kyle left Harry to go find a restroom. By the time Kyle had finished using his restroom, he had forgotten that he brought Harry along. Kyle watched A Love Romance by himself, Harry's corpse sat on a bench in the atrium. While Kyle was in the movie, a beautiful thing happened. Harry's corpse, imbued with the power of friendship and love, was reanimated. Harry's old rotten flesh gained colour and life. His fingernails regrew, his missing eye came back. By the time the movie was over, Harry was able to greet Kyle with a large friendly hug as his old self. Kyle was confused, but delighted that his long-lost friend met him on his way out of the theatre. The two made plans to get drinks together and parted ways for the day. Kyle returned home, forgetting about the interview with Rachel. Help the friends. Alright, that was not quite as much chaos as I wanted. We're exiting the bad then. Bugs. Kyle started to pick between the fuzz of his bedroom carpet, hoping to catch a stray beetle or two. Soon he had a small handful of various insects, dead and alive. Kyle threw back his head and crammed the sticky, wriggling mass into his mouth. He felt refreshed. Okay. Open the closet. It was dark and he could only really see his hanging shirts, and we're picking jeans and swimming goggles, sure. Kyle decided on a fashion-forward casual style. He could barely see out of the goggles. Let's go to the hallway. Let's move to the kitchen. Open the fridge and eat the fridge. Kyle pointed his neck directly upwards and hoisted the fridge on top of his face. Somehow, miraculously, he wrapped his mouth around the device. He started to swallow. In one slow, horrible movement, the fridge slid down Kyle's throat. What? After many gurgles, pops, and snaps, Kyle felt relatively sure the fridge would not come back out. What's in the pantry? Kyle wanted to access the pantry, but found it was locked with a small keyhole. Oh, that's what the key is for. Alright. Leave the apartment. Kyle walked out into the middle of the road and took a long pondering look around him. Visit the downstairs neighbour. Kyle approached his downstairs neighbour door and knocked. A middle-aged woman named Gabby answered the door. She looked at Kyle expectantly. Consume Gabby. Kyle unhinged his jaw and swallowed Gabby whole. Job done, Kyle returned to the middle of the street. Alright, visit the tech store. Kyle walked into the clean white tech store. He was greeted by Techno Jim, an elaborate cutout mascot with flashing lights. Quickly, before the attendant could acknowledge him, Kyle grabbed Techno Jim by the shoulders. Finding that Techno Jim's cardboard feet were bolted to the ground, Kyle started to pull upwards forcefully. After several tugs, Techno Jim broke free, leaving one foot and one leg behind. Kyle glanced at the attendant, who was staring bewildered, and ran outside. Alright. Time's up. Kyle hurried to the set. Alright, we've read all of that. Interview Techno Jim instead. Kyle roughly shoved Rachel out of her seat and placed Techno Jim in her stead. Hello, Techno Jim, said Kyle. I'm going to interview you today. Kyle grasped Techno Jim's hand and tried to shake it, but instead tore it off the cardboard frame. Kyle's producer, sensing viral media, pulled the bewildered Rachel out of frame and motioned to the crew to go live. Cameramen moved, lights flashed, and suddenly the studio was on air. Hi, I'm Kyle, said Kyle, and tonight I'm going to interview a very special guest. He pointed at Techno Jim using the dismembered arm. Techno Jim started to smoke from the heat of the lights. Would you like to introduce yourself? Asked Kyle. Knowing Jim would probably not speak, Kyle took it upon himself to be his voice as well. Hi, Kyle, he said, raising the pitch of his voice. My name is Rachel May, and I'm a very special guest. Rachel's expression of confusion turned to shock. Well, Rachel, you look way too thin and absolutely terrible, and you should feel ugly. Kyle gave Jim a meaningful stare. Wow, Kyle, he said. I sure wish I could look like you. Techno Jim burst into flames. Instantaneously, the sprinkler system initiated. Curtains of water poured down from the rafters. Within seconds, the production equipment was doused in water. The set was soon abuzz with electrical fires. Kyle's crew abandoned their post as cameraman and sound mixers to try to put the fires out. As the crew scrambled around, the cameras continued to run. Kyle sat motionless, staring forward. Eventually, the fires were all put out. Kyle's producer shut off the broadcast, leaving Kyle's vacant stare as the final frame. Kyle's ratings skyrocketed. Techno Jim became a staple on the show, often ending up destroyed by the end of each episode. Although Rachel did not come back on the show, her cardboard portrayal did. Rachel was very popular. Interviewed Rachel. Alright, we'll go for one more. Let's see, we're exiting the bed. Because I now want the key. Where's the key? At the desk, in the desk drawer. There's a small key. We'll take that. We'll write our interview questions. Am I your mother? Ever eaten a raw egg whole? I purposely ran over a puppy. Are you guilty? Let's go back. Back to the room. Into the hallway. And to the pantry. Unlock with a small key. The pantry door lock creaked as if it hadn't moved for years, but eventually opened. Instead of an assortment of canned goods and grains, Kyle's pantry stored his massive amount of bottled lard. Sure, chug one. Kyle miraculously grabbed the closest bottle, snapped the neck against the wall, and sucked out all of the fat within a minute. Continue. Kyle wildly sucked down another bottle. He felt very sick. Kyle's vomit and the lard were mixing in a way to make it hard to tell which was which. As Kyle finished the last bottle of lard, he felt a wave of accomplishment come over him. Good. Leave the apartment. Let's visit the downstairs neighbor. Scream and spin. Slowly, Kyle started to twirl outside of Gabby's door, arms outstretched. He tilted his neck upwards and let loose a long, passionate, and meaningful scream. As Kyle continued to spin, Gabby shut and locked her door. As she did every time Kyle screamed outside her door. Eventually, Kyle ran out of breath and fell over. And now to our interview. Kyle hurried to the set. Sitting across from his host's chair, yep, same thing as always. Kyle had not put on clothes that day. True. Kyle waved and smiled broadly. Rachel uncomfortably averted her eyes. Kyle started making his rounds around the room, greeting each crew member, none of whom looked at him directly. As it became apparent that Kyle had no intention of leaving, Rachel made some excuses and exited the set. One by one, the crew followed suit. Kyle was left all alone. God damn it, I wanted to ask my interview questions. Alright, one more. We'll just go through this very quickly. Sit at desk, write notes. That's not, well, whatever. Eat no egg. Those are the interesting ones anyway. Back to the desk. What's in the desk drawer anyway? A sort of flashlight. After jiggling the switch, he found it was out of batteries. Okay. A small key. And what else is in there? A sorted change. Good. We've picked that up. There's no purpose to that, but we'll at least put on some clothes. We haven't done an interview with the swimming goggles on, so let's go for those. Well, we haven't done an interview with Rachel. Not Rachel. Scavenge. Gossip.
What are you so happy about?
Yep. That's quite enough. And time's out. Yep. All right. Scream and spin in circles. He was interrupted by his producer telling him and Rachel that it was time to start the show. Aww. Alright, gossip about the neighbor. Good evening, everybody, said Kyle. My neighbor is a bug vigilante. With nothing more to say on the matter, he fell silent. Rachel, also on camera, stared at her hands and wondered when she was going to be introduced. The producer started cutting to different camera angles to break the tension. Kyle continued to remain silent and stared blankly forward. After several minutes, neighbor Gabby walked out onto set. Hi everyone, she said, smiling hollowly. My name is Gabby and I'm not a bug vigilante. False. Kyle looked at Gabby and then returned to staring forwards. Gabby began to reply but was interrupted by a bug-shaped intercom on her belt. Batgirl, it squawked. A robbery is in progress on East 3rd. Report immediate. Gabby threw the intercom on the ground and crushed it under her foot. After a beat, she spoke again. Something has come up suddenly and I must go. Gabby left the set. Well, said Carl, that's all the time we have for tonight. Thanks for joining us, Rachel. Carl got up, shook Rachel's hand again and walked past the cameras, leaving her alone. Not knowing what else to do, the producer ended the broadcast. In the coming days, fans of both Rachel and Carl dubbed this show as a masterpiece of television. Stay Up Late with Carl's online pages were updated to reflect this broadcast as the most popular ever. Carl's producer later tried to have Rachel on the show again, but she was very, very, very busy. Talked about Gabby. Alright, one more time. I want to ask Rachel those questions. Put on some clothes. Suit of armor, sure. Unsure of what exactly caused him to decide to wear his armor, but it felt like the right thing to do. After much squeezing and sweating, Kyle managed to wrap the metal suit around his dumpy self. Alright, write the interview questions. Yes. There we go. And where do we go now? Leave the apartment, visit the tech store, ask a tenant for free samples. Carl asked the store attendant whether or not they offered any free samples to important customers. The attendant gave Carl a confused and slightly vacant look. Carl began to beg for a free sample. Wanting Carl to leave, the attendant grabbed a decrepit phone meant for spare parts and held it out. Carl firmly clamped his mouth around the outstretched phone, creating several teeth holes in the screen. Carl grunted and yanked with his head until the attendant let go of the phone. The phone is now Carl's to use forever. Give review a free sample. This phone, said Carl, is several years old and has exposed wires coming out the back. Carl continued. The phone also has had screen issues after I used it to hammer nails into the wall for a painting. Furthermore, when I submerge it in water, I get severely shocked until it runs out of battery. The attendant looked at Carl, pursed his lips and said nothing. Feeling he had made his arguments, Carl decided to leave. Alright. Doesn't matter. Time's up. Alright. Answer politely. Yes. Okay. Start the broadcast. Same thing as always. Become Rachel May. You know what? Screw it. We'll do that. However, said Carl, suddenly dropping his voice, Rachel May is not sitting next to me. She's not new to the show. She did not walk in before me. In fact, said Carl, I am Rachel May. Rachel looked at Carl, confused, and silently mouthed the words, You are who? Carl stood up quickly and threw his arm high above him, pointing upwards. I have never been Carl, he shouted. I have never been the host of the show Stay Up Late with Carl. Carl looked and pointed directly at the camera. I'm here for but one reason, to interview myself. Carl sat down in his chair and went to produce the notice he had taken earlier. Carl read the first question on his list. Are you a mother? Well, he said, brightening, I'm glad you asked. Yes, I've produced many, many, many children. In fact, said Carl, motioning to Rachel, one of my children is sitting here with me today. Rachel looked incredibly confused. After a moment, Carl spoke again. I am your mother. He stood up again. Give me a big hug, daughter. After a moment more, Rachel shrugged, stood up and gave Carl a hug. The interview continued, Carl talking about his supposed raising of Rachel and their times together. Rachel engaged in the interview with exuberance, answering questions as best as she could and enjoying every moment. From this episode, Rachel's childhood and family became a debated topic in her fanbase. When fans asked Rachel about the matter, she would giggle and make a joke about the interview. Scientists and fans began to dig deep, finding evidence both for and against the Carl is Rachel's mother theory. But no matter how much anyone dug, nobody was able to come to a conclusion on the matter. Carl had created a public mystery. And that is where we're going to end it. There's 22 more endings you could unlock. Feel free to check out the game. I think it's for free on Steam. If you want to see all the other endings. There you go, there's an overview. We kind of got a lot of the ones around the outside. I hope you enjoyed this week's Indie Sunday. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.